News contributor, and Juan Williams, co-host of The Five and a Fox News political analyst. So that lays it out. Is Trumponomics, or whatever you want to call it, Mark, does it appear to be working?
It does to some extent, though. You know, this is only one quarter. We've had this kind of high economic growth under Barack Obama briefly, but over the period of his entire presidency, economic growth was a tepid 2%. So, you know, Donald Trump campaigned on a promise to get economic growth going again. He promised the forgotten Americans who were left behind by Barack Obama's weak recovery that he would deliver economic growth to them. So he needs the tax cuts to do that. The only way you're going to get this over a sustained period is if we have a real economic stimulus with lower taxes.
Yeah, and that's what they're betting on, Juan. They're betting on getting this tax cut, which after the health care debacle is pretty important politically as well as economically. 1 million jobs so far created since President Trump took office. If they can get these two things put together, the economy and the tax cuts, that could be a pretty good package for them.
For the Republicans, especially going towards 2018, but even more so for President Trump as he starts to think about 2020. I mean, that would allow him to say that he had real accomplishments. And at the moment, as you know, those legislative accomplishments aren't not in hand. But when we come to the tax plan, there's some interesting numbers to look at, including the 3.1% that you mentioned at the top, Martha. If you look at the most recent Fox News poll, 88% of Americans think that we should not, 88% of Americans think we should cut taxes for small businesses. We should cut taxes for the middle class. But when it comes to lowering taxes for corporations or lowering taxes for the wealthy, you're down about 30% saying that they should be. And when you look at the Trump tax plan, I think this is what the Democrats are going to do. They're going to say this is a tax cut plan that benefits the rich and the mighty corporations.
Of course, that's what they're going to say. I mean, that's what they always say. But I wonder, you know, if you ask those same people, and Mark, I want to get your thoughts on this. Yep. You know, if you thought that lowering the corporate tax rate would stimulate jobs in the country, would you be in favor of it?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you're not going to get economic growth unless you get the corporate tax rate down. I mean, 35%. We are out of the 35 industrial nations, we are in 35th place when it comes to tax competitiveness. Yeah. So you've got to get that corporate tax down in order to spur economic growth and also to bring back the $2.5 trillion that's parked outside of the economy that could come in here and create jobs. So, look, if we do this tax reform and we do it right and we do a growth-oriented tax cut across the board, then and the economy starts growing at 3.5, 4%, which is the post-war average for an economic recovery. Obama's recovery was only 2%. If we can get that going, everybody's going to be fine with a tax cut for corporations. I don't think the polls are going to matter.
It's interesting. Gary Cohn said something interesting today, Juan. He was asked, well, what about the middle class tax cut, and will the president actually end up paying less or more under the scenario? And his argument was, I don't think that most individuals in the country really care if somebody else is paying more or less. What they care about is what they're paying, whether or not when they get their taxes or they get their return back, it's a bigger check when they get it back in the mail. This notion that there should be punishment for corporations and punishment for wealthy people is very baked in notion. Does it really matter? And is it the right way to think about it, Juan?
Well, no, because look, I think what you're right about, Martha, is that people want to know how it affects me. They want to know, is my job secure, or am I going to get a higher pay raise? But when it comes to the principle at stake, and this is very key to me, I think you and Mark disagree with me on this, but when people see that, in fact, this is a tax plan that's going to benefit people like the billionaire Donald Trump, the president, they say, wait a second, so what's the benefit for me, or am I simply having the wool pulled over my eyes? And I would also add that in terms of Republican orthodoxy on the deficit, the president has not laid out in this plan how he is going to pay for these tax cuts. So people are saying, well, how are you going to pay for this? Is it possible? We'd like a tax cut, but tell us how it works so that you don't drive up the deficit as a percentage of GDP.
Deficit's been going up for the past how many years? Now there's all this concern.
But that was it. Listen, go back to Reagan years, go back to Obama years.
I got you. But the argument is growth. Now, whether or not it's going to work, I don't know. Yeah. But that's the argument, that the growth will drive, and that's the argument that Gary Cohn was just making. When you get a 1% increase, you get this exponential impact on growth. Mark, go ahead.
Absolutely, you'll get growth. And look, as far as if you think about this, the 2% growth under Barack Obama, which is half his post-war average, that left 6 million jobs on the table that were not created. If we had gone at the post-war average at 4%, $17,000 in median income increase. that would have accrued. So that's how that benefits the American people.
Yeah.
And as for the debt and the deficit, nobody in the Democratic Party was talking about debt and deficit when Barack Obama doubled the national debt over the last 8 years. He collected more debt in 8 years than every president
Marc,
from George Washington to George W. Bush combined.
But Marc,
we have a spending problem, not a revenue
Marc,
problem.
given that Republicans were so hard on that point, doesn't it look to you kind of hypocritical?
Disingenuous.
Yeah, to shift.
All right. Well, President Trump said on the campaign trail at a debate, he said that he's going to get to 5 or 6%. We've lost our businesses. I think you can go 5 or 6%. So we'll see if you can produce those kind of numbers with this plan. Thanks, you guys. Good to see you both.
Thank you, Martha.
So.